Hello. My name is Göran Boll. I come from Sweden, and I would like to start by saying I'm very grateful to be here, to be asked to give this presentation. And I would like to say thank you to John and the AIYT team for the job you're doing, and I'm very happy to be participating and helping the way I can. Thank you. I come from Sweden, small country. Think California. It's about the same size, same shape. Population, think New York City. Less than 10 million people, that's Sweden. And it's a small country, it's up by the polar circle. And even though it's small, there's some very serious yogic activity going on there. And that's what that's what I'm going to tell you about here today. I've been lecturing many times over the years, and one thing that I've found is that if I start the lecture with one or two yogic exercises, everything gets much better after that. So please sit up straight. I will lead you through a very simple exercise coming from the Kundalini Yoga tradition. Spine straight, close your eyes. And do some long, deep breathing. Inhale and exhale through the nose. And just experience where you are right now, so you have something to compare with in a little while. Focus in your third eye point between your eyebrows, and just do long, deep breathing. I don't have any slides accompanying my presentation here today, so instead I would encourage you to, as much as possible, keep your eyes closed through the presentation and watch those inner slides instead. And see how this presentation works there. What kind of ideas and thoughts that this presentation evokes in you. The exercise is very simple. We're going to work with the neck and the jaws. The neck being sensitive, be very careful. It mustn't hurt, mustn't create any discomfort, so be very careful with the exercise. Imagine you have a small pen sticking out of your chin. Take that pen and draw a very small clockwise circle just in front of you, size of a tennis ball. Very slowly. It should take about 10 seconds to complete that circle, so it's very slow. You inhale in the upper half of the circle, and you exhale in the lower half of it, very slowly. The jaws. Every time you inhale through the nose, open your mouth as wide as you can. And not just a little bit, as wide as you can in that upper half of the circle. And then in the lower half, you just relax the jaws again. You should look something like an alligator farm around lunchtime in here. Open your mouth wide. I'm not sure this exercise is good for anything though, but still, since they're filming here today, I thought we'd all have a good time in the afternoon watching it on YouTube. Few more laps, slowly, and don't forget to breathe. Next time you reach bottom, you change direction and you move the pen in the other direction. Don't forget to open your mouth. Actually, it has some effects. It's very good for circulation to the brain, relaxes muscles in your neck, your throat, and your jaws, massages your thyroid gland, creating deep relaxation. You could probably feel that as an urge to yawn or a heaviness in body and mind. From a yogic perspective, it's very good for your throat chakra. Inner and outer communication, truthfulness is the key words here. Next time you come all the way down, you do one more circle. Opening your mouth extra wide this time. And then you stop at the bottom and you lift your head up. Keep your eyes closed. Do some more long, deep breathing. And just experience what the exercise did to you. And decide now if you want to keep your eyes closed and just listen in, or open your eyes, and I will continue. I'm a yoga therapist. I'm also the founder of the Institute for Medical Yoga in Stockholm, Sweden. Medical yoga, or in short, MediYoga. It's from the lineage of the Kundalini yoga tradition. It's a very gentle form of yoga. We're using posture, movement, mudras and bandhas, deep relaxation, meditation, mantras, and the most central key here, the most central component is breath. Conscious breathing, pranayama. I took my teacher training in '95, and I practiced since 20 years. When I took my teacher training, I made this very low-key, very laid-back goal for myself in how to work with yoga. I decided to turn Sweden into a completely yogic country in my lifetime. I mean, it's less than 10 million people. And I identified 3 areas, 3 sectors in society to work with: schools, workplaces, and the medical system. So for the first 8-9 years, I worked with workplaces, introducing yoga to some 300 major workplaces in Sweden. I worked with banks, airline companies, insurance companies, telecom, secret defense units within the military. Actually, the Swedish equivalents to the American NSA. The guys listening to anything and everything. And I also did yoga with the Royal Swedish Parliament for a year. Together with this, I also worked with yoga therapy, one-on-one sessions, small groups, and for 5 years I lectured at the Karolinska Institute, the medical college of the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. That's the institute who are giving out Nobel Prize, electing Nobel Prize winners. So I hope they remember me when they give out this deep relaxation award sometime in the future. I've been to every SYTAR since the beginning. I was in LA in 2007. I think I got this t-shirt there, actually. This one. Could have been in 2008. In 2008, at SYTAR in LA, a number of yoga therapy schools came together, formed the Council of Schools with the intention to develop guidelines for yoga therapy trainings all over the world. And it's coming to fruition this year with the accreditation process. And one of many discussions we had there was, should we train yoga teachers to become yoga therapists and get them into the medical system? Or should we train people already within the system, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, and train them in yoga therapy? In Sweden, we've tried both approaches. But for the last 7 years, me and my team, we have focused on and trained health professionals. So we trained up till today 1,000 health professionals in Sweden and another 250 in Norway, working in hospitals with yoga. We train them to become first instructors and then to become yoga therapists. It's a 2-year training. And after that, we give them possibilities for further education in yoga after those 2 years. And this development has led to a number of hospitals having implemented yoga as part of what they offer to patients. The first hospital, we started training health professionals in 2007, and the first hospital started offering yoga to patients in 2010. And since then, some almost 70 up till today, and we know we'll reach about 100 before this year is over. 100 hospitals out of 1,000 in Sweden, so we reached 10% this year of the total medical system. And one of the components behind this development is research. I don't know if you heard of it. Massive doses of research. The medical system demands, as we here all well know, demands research before they admit it. So, I don't know if you had the same experience, but in Sweden they prefer Swedish research. So I can't draw on what all you guys have already done. I have to sort of make it myself. Actually, one medical official asked just last year if we had produced any research locally in his county. Because that would really be the best, he said. The first study ever on yoga in Sweden was done in 1998. It was a spine study conducted by the Medicinsk Institutet. And they found some nice, significant results on pain, on sleep, and anxiety. So it wasn't that difficult in getting good results from yoga. And since then, there has been a number of studies on yoga in Sweden. Stockholm University did one comparative study on yoga and cognitive behavioral therapy on people working in banks. This was in 2000. And they found some very good, significant results from both methods. And it's a published study. AstraZeneca, it's a major pharmaceutical company. It's actually originated in Sweden, but it's now one of the 10 largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. I've been doing yoga with them for 13 years now, and for the last 8 years, they have evaluated yoga as stress relief for people on sick leave, personnel on sick leave. And so they took in yoga as rehabilitation and compared it with anything and everything that the Human Resources Department had at its disposal, and evaluated what kind of effects they got. And yoga came up top 3 every semester for 8 years. It's very charming by a pharmaceutical company to give pills to us and yoga to their own staff. Yeah. There have been a number of studies on myocardial infarction, atrial fibrillation, high blood pressure, spine problems, teenagers with autism spectrum diagnosis, health care center patients with various diagnoses. There have been about a dozen studies conducted in Sweden since 1998. In one of them, we had a participant, Christina. She was a high school teacher, so you can imagine her stress level. In her early 60s, she had just barely survived a severe heart attack. 2 weeks prior to joining the study, she came with broken ribs from some very intense CPR. And she had a blood pressure 195/100, which is relatively high. Yeah. 10 weeks of yoga later, not only had her ribs healed, but her blood pressure was 100/65. Today, 5 years later, she still comes every week to the Institute and do her yoga class. She says yoga is saving her life on a continuous basis. One interesting thing about yoga research in Sweden is that these days most of it is initiated by people we have trained to become yoga therapists. They're doctors, they're nurses, they're physical therapists. They go back to their hospital, to their clinic, they work with yoga, they see results, and they initiate more research on it. So nowadays I don't have to do anything. I just sit by the sidelines and cheer them on. Just a month ago, the Medicinsk Institute released a new study, relatively large, 162 patients, unspecified spine problems, and they did 3 different interventions. One group did yoga, one group did functional training with a physical therapist, and one group went to see a spine specialist. And the report says that yoga and physical therapy were both very efficient in getting people back on their feet again, but yoga was by far the most cost-efficient intervention. It says in the report that Swedish society as a whole will be able to save $150,000 per year per patient if they give them yoga as a primary tool. And I don't know about this country, but in Sweden, back pain costed like $13 billion last year. So there's a lot of money to save there. Looking forward now, there are 3 major studies starting in yoga in Sweden, on yoga in Sweden. There's one on atrial fibrillation with 200 patients. There's one equally large on heart failure, and there is one with 300 patients on high blood pressure. So sometime with the next 2 or 3 years we will see the results of those studies. When we started training people in Sweden, other countries expressed interest. So For the last 4 years now, 3 years, 3.5, we've been training medical staff, health professionals in Norway, Sweden's closest neighbor. And we've trained 250 yoga therapists and instructors there now. And just last week, one MD went on national television. She was interviewed on the news saying she was the first MD in Norway to become a yoga therapist. And she really encouraged the Norwegian medical system to include yoga into the treatment of patients there. We have been approached by the British medical system. Next year we start trainings in Holland, in Japan, and here in the States, in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Thank you. This afternoon I will be leading a workshop at 4:15, so if you want to try medical yoga, we will do a very basic set. Anyone can do it. It's one of the most researched sequences in Swedish research, and it's very good. So I welcome you there, and I thank you for your time. Sat Nam. Thank you.